Like I've never done this before.
Wow.
I'm out of practice.
What kind of amateur ass are you?
So amateur. Ugh. Boop, boop. Okay. We'll give it. I know we're late, so we'll give it like 3 minutes for people to roll in here. How are you, James?
Sleepy.
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 It's Father's Day.
No, I need a Father's Day nap.
You had one.
I need a second Father's Day nap. I would like a permanent and eternal Father's Day nap.
I mean, I've got some weapons back there. We can arrange it. Give you a happy little accident in which you die.
Settle down, prod nose. Felix.
Gerald.
Gerald. Oh, yeah,
Gerald.
because Felix is fickle gruber. Oh, Lord.
It is a Father's Day special.
This movie, man.
I hate it.
You hated it?
It was so cringe. Ooh, a grill. What kind of grill? Is it a Traeger grill?
Is it a good grill? It doesn't need to be Traeger to be good. Traegers are good.
It's kind of like it doesn't need to be Benchmade to be good, but Benchmades are good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. I'm serious, though. Oh, a Blackstone flat top? Hell yeah.
I don't know what that is.
Think of the biggest griddle you've ever seen. A griddle the size of our kitchen island.
So like a hibachi grill?
Kind of. But for outside.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Alrighty. One more minute, then we'll get started because we're already late as fuck. The movie took time. We had to make dinner in the middle of it. Then we had to make dinner for tomorrow in the middle. It was time. 30 inches. Like this big?
30 inches is less than 3 feet.
So like this big?
How tall are you?
I'm 5'2 3/4.
All right, so it's around half your size if it's standing on its side.
So like a toddler.
Yeah.
Okay.
A toddler we know, not a toddler, a baby we know, is 29 inches tall.
Oh, okay. Exactly half my height. Okay, that's helpful too.
Hannah's 60 inches tall.
Are you only 2 inches shorter than I am?
Yes.
I don't have reference for. It took me forever to figure out that me and Bree were the same height. So
You and Bree the same height?
Yeah.
Oh my god. You're all a bunch of shorties.
Lauren's taller than me. Courtney is
Wonka.
It's Wonka. It has a
Wonka.
Title on the video that you watched.
Okay.
I mean, Wonka can't read either, so Wonka. It's time for Wonka. You ready for Wonka, Jay?
I'm the opposite of intoxicated right now, and I feel like I should be 2 levels of intoxicated deep to do this.
Well, here we go.
Okay. What?
I made the mic spike a little bit right at the beginning. So
right, well, I'll have to. I guess I'll do something about that. Ugh, you're making me work on my own show.
I also am just not. My brain today has been.
It's been all over the map, and then it went to a chocolatier world in questionable country Europe.
Literally, we don't know where
there
it
was
is.
Every accent under the sun.
There's no setting.
There is no setting.
We watched Wonka. This is CityWavesCinema. I'm America. That's James. It's Father's Day currently, so happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. It won't be when you're listening to this, but for our live audience, happy Father's Day. Yeah, Wonka.
That was a movie that came out in 2023.
2024?
2023.
Really?
Released October 24th, 2023.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
on the screen. I pulled it up. Look at it with your eyes. Holy shit.
I thought it was much more recent, but also the past 9 months have been a little bit of a blur.
That's fair.
In my brain, so...
This movie is 116 minutes long, and for 110 of them, you're left sitting there going, what the fuck is going on?
And don't worry, much like Dune, nothing will be explained at any point.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to start this off by saying here's my main issue with this movie, right? This is supposed to be our Wonka origin story, right?
Sure.
This is supposed to be how we learn how Wonka got his start and like did his whole thing, right?
Sure.
We don't learn a fucking thing about Wonka other than his mom made really good chocolate and she died.
Did we watch the same movie? Did you fall asleep partway through and miss part of the plot? That's a legitimate question. We've had a sleepy Sunday. So like
we don't understand how he has the ability to gather these ingredients, how he even knows what ingredients to use. Anything that he does is not explained. His hat is Mary Poppins's bag. It makes no sense, and there is no explanation given to how Wonka becomes Wonka.
There is an explanation.
If you just say whimsical magic, I'm going to hit you.
Oh, I have terrific news for you. I'm not going to say whimsical magic, for it is not whimsical magic that empowers our dear Wonka. Our dear Wonka is an eldritch god,
Oh my God.
horror unbeknownst to the world, a distant relative to one horrifying old god known as Cthulhu himself. Willy Wonka is exclusively an eldritch nightmare man in the body of Timothy Chalamet.
This sounds like one of the most unhinged Pat game theories.
Did you watch the movie? It was insane. That movie was ridiculous. I mean, all right, let's
break it down.
Let's start from the ship that crosses the vague body of water to deposit Willy Wonka into this musical. Surprise, it's a musical.
Which I did give James this because I was also a little taken aback that it was a musical. I was not expecting it to be a musical. But the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, not the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and we got to keep those separate. The original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory was a musical.
Yes.
So, we can...
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's really bad. It's fine. Now, listen. I should, before we jump directly to the boat, which is where we already started, you thought this movie was bad. I thought this movie is the perfect kind of madness to be entertaining. I think this is a put it on in the background for a couple of laughs type of movie.
So this is your Cinderella.
Yeah, I would watch this movie 4 times in a week in the background while I'm doing something else.
This is your Cinderella.
Yes.
Oh my God.
You see, you love that garbage, awful, no good, very bad, truly miserable mistake of a film that Amazon produced called Cinderella. A retelling in a musical form that was bad front to back with no redeeming qualities. You love that. It's
Great
your brain
jukebox
trash.
musical. I love that musical.
A horrible nightmare for my eyeballs. You love it so much. This is mine, and it's so good. It's so funny. It's so stupid. None of it makes any sense. It's bullshit front to back. He does witchcraft the whole time. He calls himself a magician. He does insane magical bullshit the whole time. He has bottled thunderclouds. You can't believe this movie is grounded in reality because it's so far from that. Did you not see the police chief grow 400 pounds over the course of 1 week in the movie?
It was multiple. There was more than
Oh,
1
I'm
week.
sorry. It was like, about 3 to 4
weeks.
weeks.
It's about like 2 months.
Really?
Yeah, because if you count by the Oompa Loompa... Oh my God, the shit that is coming out of my mouth right now. If you track time by the fact that the Oompa Loompa appears every 3 weeks, it's at least 2 months.
Oh, no. This
That is a sentence I said out loud.
This movie, man. It's got a 7 on IMDb.
It's pretty.
The effects are marvelous.
Timothée Chalamet does a great job. No, it has its moments, but
okay, here's the thing, right? Wonka has a 7 on IMDb, and Cinderella has a 4.4. There's a clear disparity here between your favorite kind of brain trash and mine. Mine's better than yours, just so we're clear.
In another universe, or maybe in this universe, I bet somewhere online in a wiki somewhere there's proof, but Wonka definitely went to Hogwarts. Can we just talk about that?
No. In Hogwarts, they have rules about magic and bullshit. This is an eldritch god. He does whatever the fuck. He is hazardous to humanity. Also, we're in a vague place. Let's start from the top. Wonka gets off this boat,
that
starts
he's
singing
been
a
on
song.
for many years.
Huh?
Wonka's been on the boat for like years, gathering all his ingredients and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay, then I guess you just have to, like, stuff it because they said it. He was gathering ingredients the whole time, and now he has them all.
But we don't talk about how.
Listen, even when Johnny Depp was Wonka, we didn't explain how he did anything. He just appeared in lands, cut stuff up with a machete, and tasted a bunch of bug guts, okay? That's how he got his chocolate shit.
Which is fine, but this is my fucking origin story, and I demand goddamn explanation to the powers of fucking Wonka!
No, he's an eldritch horror. You will demand nothing, and you will be happy about it. Listen, Wonka gets there,
and
loses all 12 of his sovereigns.
To a major cringe opening song.
Oh, yeah, it's musical bad. Now, you know how musicals are bad? Because they are. This is just like that. It's perfectly acceptable to like musicals. You should like musicals. They're great fun. They're also terrible. This is just right in there. It's right in there.
It's like the most cringe Broadway, and I'm trying to think of an example because Cats is not a good one because that's different.
Cats is bad. This is good bad.
It does have that like Broadway cringe where you just kind of
you're like, oh no. It's like Rent.
No, how fucking dare you? You need to back off that train right now.
No.
It's more like Into the Woods. It's more
it's
like
a lot like Into the
Woods.
Woods. It's a lot like Into the Woods.
Where you're just kind of like, wow, this song is highly unnecessary and doesn't really do anything for the plot at all.
Wow, we just broke out into song for no reason. That's fun. Anyways, Wonka's on a boat for a long time and gathering all his ingredients, and then he appears in this strange European country that will not be named, and he has 12 sovereigns in his pocket, and over the course of the first song, he loses all of them.
Because he's naive, stupid.
Very silly.
And
we also don't know how old he is here, but he looks like Timothée Chalamet now, so...
I did make a note about that. I was like, Timothy being Timothy really makes it hard for me to determine how old Wonka is during this entire thing.
It is a perfect casting because you don't know anything about him.
No.
You don't know. It's like Gene Wilder doing the somersault in the original. You don't know anything, whether Wonka's lying or not. It's the same thing, except for it's just Timothée Chalamet's face.
Yeah.
Like, he's unknowable.
He also needs to attend the America class of how to like move around big cities because you don't talk to anyone, you don't make eye contact. These people that are like, let me shine your shoe. No, fuck you. Like, don't.
To be fair, that little street urchin shined his shoes without his consent twice, and he just paid him because he was being polite.
He needs to be more aware of his surroundings.
That's absolutely true. You know how I know? Because he gets fined for daydreaming in the square. Which is a thing that only a European nation would endorse, is fining someone for daydreaming in the square. Now, he winds up not having any money for room and board for his first night in this new country. And so he intends to sleep on a bench, and he gets approached by Breacher.
But before that, we discover that he has the same manufacturer that Mary Poppins does.
Right, because he pulls a bunch of insane things out of his hat.
Which he will continue to do with no explanation for the rest of the entire movie.
Does Mary Poppins explain how she gets shit out of her bag?
No!
All right, then shove it.
But this is my origin story! Also, in no other Wonka canonically Wonka.
Is just a guy.
Yeah, canonically, there's not a magic hat anywhere else in Willy Wonka.
Right, but this is a children's story, and it's Roald Dahl, so there has to be an Eldritch Nightmare. And that Eldritch Nightmare is Willy Wonka.
Which is fine, but we're messing with fucking canon here.
No, we're not. We're making new canon. Like how there's old canon and new canon for Star Wars, which pissed off everybody. It's the same thing. I don't know. Go ask Johnny Depp how he feels about it. I'm sure he's like up in arms about how we didn't have a sad dad thing.
No, we had a sad mom thing instead.
Yeah, we had a sad mom thing. He doesn't even have a dad. Happy Father's Day. Fuck you.
Wow. No, Johnny Depp's words.
This movie's got us out of fucking sorts, man.
This is a movie.
This is
Okay.
Oh my god. So he gets approached by a man called Breacher, who's a giant, and he has to. Breacher says he knows a place where when you're down on your luck, you can stay for really cheap, and Willie naively agrees. Goes to the laundry, as it is. It's a laundromat / bed and breakfast, and the proprietor of this place is I don't even remember her name. It's so irritating. Regardless, the proprietor of this place has a little guest contract for him to sign in order to stay the night. They verbally agree on 1 sovereign for the night. He's planning to be able to sell some chocolate the next day and make the money he needs to pay for the night. And in the background, there's a little serving girl. Her name is Noodle. And she opens a side cupboard and whisper yells at Willie to read the fine print on the contract. And he goes, huh? And then she gets chased off, and he goes to read the fine print, and it's very clear that there's something wrong with this contract.
It's like 1,000 pages long.
It's like the end user agreement for all of your technology. And Willie seemingly reads part of it and goes, oh, this is all fine, signs his shit, carries on. Now, the problem we will discover later is that Willy Wonka can't read.
Apparently.
He's illiterate.
He spent all his time learning to make chocolate and not reading.
Yeah, well, they at least explained that, right?
They did say that. That's literally what he said.
Right. So the contract has an exorbitant fee, as he finds out the next day when he goes, sells some chocolate, causes a ruckus, the police confiscate his coins. He goes back. I think he has 1 sovereign left. Yeah, he has 1 sovereign left.
Well, no, that he asked the cop
he
to
asked
leave
the cop
him
to leave him 1 sovereign so he could pay for his room, and the cop did. Great guy, that guy.
He's a wonderful cop.
What's his name? Affable?
Sure.
Yeah, his name is Affable. That's funny. Anyways, he goes back to pay the 1 thing as he believes they agreed.
At Scrubbits, by the way.
Scrubbits, that's what it's called. Scrubbit and Breacher, yeah. So, she very villainesquely explains to him that he signed a contract that states that he owes just 10,000 sovereigns, I believe it is. And
for using the stairs and a pillow.
The stair fee, the pillow penalty.
The mini bar, which is not the alcoholic bar, but the bar of soap.
Yep. So
it's also important to note that the people that called the cops on Wonka
are the Chocolate Cartel,
which involves
Arthur Slugworth, Gerald Prodnose, and Felix Fickelgruber.
Which, if you know Wonka lore, I'm going to be the lore person.
Some Wonka lore, some element of Wonka lore.
Those are some of Wonka's biggest rivals.
They won't be by the end of this movie.
But then, even in later on, Slugworth is one of Wonka's rivals, like still continuing throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure.
Right, but what happened at the end of this movie? Something else entirely. So, it's my last note, okay?
You're really into it.
Listen, this movie is an eldritch nightmare.
But what's in okay, carry on. I was gonna say a spoiler, but we'll get to it
Don't
when
say
we
the
get to
spoiler.
it. Okay.
So Wonka is then effectively enslaved to work off his exorbitant debt at Scrubbett's Laundry.
Which she apparently does to many
Many people,
people.
um, alongside fellow captives, Noodle, and a couple of people. I'll read their names now: Abacus Crunch,
Who's an accountant
Piper Benz,
who is
big and scary and mean.
yeah, I don't
She's
remember what she
lovely.
does.
She's great. She doesn't have a thing because at the end, when she gets to go home, she just goes to her homies at the bar. Like, she doesn't have a thing. Abacus is a guy who has a job. Piper is a token character.
Yeah.
Larry Chucklesworth, who is a failed comedian, and Lottie Bell, who is a
phone operator.
phone operator. Yes. These people have all been trapped in the basement of this laundry. Bearing in mind, this is a movie about the origin of Willy Wonka, the chocolatier. So they just sort of do laundry, and we have a song about laundry. That's fun.
Scrub.
Yep, that's the whole thing is scrub. And we learn how to do the laundry. It's literally a step-by-step on how to do laundry in whatever 18, 19, whatever year this is. So
there's
that's
no time
fun.
or
This movie is insane. This movie is an unhinged roller coaster ride of quick, rather fun, witty dialogue and constant maniacal events.
or just cringe on top of cringe if you're me.
I mean, look, it's got its fair share of cringe. I'll never deny you that, for sure. But almost every time Willy Wonka is talking to someone, the dialogue is really fast and snappy, and it's not cringe. But when it's like the chocolate cartel or the cops or whoever else, it's deeply cringe.
Okay.
It's written in such a way that you are forced violently to be on the side of Wonka as hard as you can. Like, this is your only refuge in the nightmare shitstorm that is the plot. And it turns out your refuge in the shitstorm is an eldritch deity of questionable origin who has no father and a dead mother. It's like, just, it's so wild.
He's got that orphan syndrome. Which is a joke from the movie and not a personal opinion. They say that it's James.
It says Noodle has orphan syndrome.
Yep.
And Willie doesn't know anything, so he goes, orphan syndrome. And then she goes, orphan syndrome. And he goes, orphan syndrome.
Poor thing.
He just
accepts it at face value.
He just believes it's a thing.
And talks to Noodle about it later. He's like, that's because of your orphan syndrome.
And she goes, what? Noodle's the straight man to Willy Wonka's madness. Listen, in terms of just pure cinema, it's really pretty. It's deeply, maybe offensively cringe at some points, but there are parts where you just have to laugh.
I did laugh.
Because it's so outrageous. Anyways, Wonka doesn't fuck with this captivity shit at all. So
immediately makes a plan.
He immediately makes a plan
to break out.
And he gives Noodle her very first chocolate. And we go through a little bit of backstory of how he got his penchant for chocolate, which was he lived on a river in a houseboat with his mom, who did not have a job, but would,
or a name,
but would come back sometimes from her day-to-day doings, which will not be explained, with a singular cocoa bean.
And by the end of the year, for his birthday, there would be enough cocoa beans to make a single bar of chocolate.
Right. Listen, every version of Willy Wonka has to have a tragic backstory, except Gene Wilder, who is just a murderer and is deeply concerning. So now Wonka does this lovely backstory and then immediately launches into a story about how he's being stalked by a small orange man.
Because the chocolate he was going to sell, because Noodle helped him break out that day, after he manufactured a laundry making machine.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He makes a laundry machine using the guard dog.
Yeah, so that none of the people have to do laundry. He doesn't have to do laundry. Noodle breaks him out by convincing the
They convince
proprietor
Bleacher and Scrubbit to fall in love.
And
they get tricked into falling in love with each other.
So he breaks out, but then his chocolate that he was going to sell that day to help them make this whole plan worth it was taken by a little orange man with green hair, is what he tells, who comes every 3 weeks. This is important.
It's important to the plot.
Comes every 3 weeks and steals all of his chocolate.
Yes.
And has done that for some time.
Yes. And Noodle agrees to help him learn how to read. In the meantime, the chocolate cartel bribes the chief of police, who is played by Keegan-Michael Key, through song to intimidate and also maybe murder Willy Wonka.
Have him have a happy little accident in which he dies.
This is a children's movie. And honestly, I recommend it for your children. It's very funny. What the fuck happens next?
So Wonka has to make more chocolate, so he tells Noodle that they need to go get milk, and Noodle's like, there's milk everywhere, and he's like, but that's stealing, because, like, it's the milkman dropping milk off, and he's like, plus, I need giraffe milk for reasons that will not be explained at all.
Right.
So they go to the zoo.
They break into the zoo after hours, after giving the guard, because this will also be important to the plot later, they give the guard a chocolate that is called a night out. And
which I want to try.
You start with a champagne. It's basically a chocolate that gets you fucked up and knocks you out in around 2 to 3 minutes.
It's the entire experience of a night out is what Wonka sells it as. So the first layer is like champagne, second layer is wine.
White wine.
Then you...
Red wine.
Then you like dance and party for a few minutes. Then you have like an emotional breakdown.
With the whiskey.
And then you pass out.
The port. No, you go to the port at the back of the cabinet after the emotional breakdown, and that's when you go down.
Yeah.
And then you're asleep for some time. So they do that to the zoo guard. And then they break into the zoo. Willy Wonka almost gets killed by a tiger because
he can't read.
He can't read. So
which they will reiterate several times.
Right, he can't read. It's very important. He can't read. So I just can't. He can't read.
So they go.
How is he a person?
They go meet another important character to the plot that will come back later, named Abigail the giraffe.
He must just be an eldritch god. It's the only explanation. It's the only thing that's real.
So Abigail the giraffe likes Willy Wonka's mints.
Yes, they're I don't remember what kind of mints they are, but they're mints.
They're very special Wonka mints, and that's the only explanation you need.
Yeah, pretty much. So they get the giraffe to chill out. They milk the giraffe.
There's another song.
Backstory about Noodle, a little bit.
She tried to find her family. She's got a ring around her neck that has an N on it, and that's all she knows about herself.
Pretty much. So having gotten this milk, we go on a montage of
Wonka nonsense.
Wonka and the gang, which is everyone from the laundry.
Are you going to skip over their lovely, beautiful Fly Across the City number?
Oh, I did, yes. Carry on with the lovely number.
The Wonka nonsense. So... I've skipped. My notes are irrelevant at this point. I do have one note that chocolate is not that fucking good. It is not good enough to warrant most of the things that happen in this movie.
Everyone goes buck wild over Wonka's
They're
shit.
paying off not even that, just the chocolate cartel is paying off like the church
and the police.
And the police with chocolate. No one in this movie got paid nearly enough to be in this movie. We also missed one of my favorite lines, which is when Wonka is convincing the muscle, what's his name? Bleacher to go flirt with Mrs. Scrubbit. He says, you know what they say, She'll be thankful for a little ankle.
Uh-huh.
She'll, oh fuck, I'm not gonna remember.
She'll be pleased to see your knees.
She'll be pleased to see your knees, and
if you really want to make her sigh,
show her some thigh, which is my new favorite fucking thing that's ever
after
existed.
that, Bleacher appears in lederhosen, short shorts made of leather, and he is working the fuck out of them.
Time is irrelevant in this movie.
That's also true.
We go from day to night, and when we're milking the giraffe, it's at night, and we do a whole number, and somehow Wonka still makes it back for roll call.
Now we have to take a moment when they get back, because they're going to start recruiting the gang.
Will you quit jumping ahead in the plot?
No.
Because you have to do the whole thing where the fucking... Okay. Wonka's still a little weird with children. It still makes me feel a little uncomfortable. He does this whole song and dance number with Noodle. They have this beautiful moment. They land in the square.
It's not romantic.
It's not. It's just... It's weird. They do this whole little song and dance number. They land in the square. The police roll up.
Yeah, I forgot about it.
Wonka shoves Noodle off like, run, I can handle it.
I've talked my way out of tighter spots than this.
And so then the police come and rough Wonka up.
Literally nearly drown him.
Yeah, they shove his head through some ice, which, ow.
Yeah.
Shove his head underwater, tell him to stop making chocolate, pull him out and be like, you got it? And he's like, no, I couldn't hear you. What? And they're like, shove him underwater, say it again, do this whole bit and gag, and he's like, I've got water in my ears. And the police chief's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. He's like, well, if you don't want another whack in the head, stop making, or if you don't want worse than a whack in the head, stop making chocolate. And he's like, I haven't been whacked in the head. And then the police officer whacks him in the head.
Hits him with the billy.
So now we've officially been threatened.
And roughed up by the police.
By the police to stop making chocolate. So then we go back, and now James can tell his recruitment story.
So they basically recruit the whole gang because Wonka is talking to Noodle through their cell bar windows, basically. And everyone wakes up and talks to each other about the plan, which is to bust out and sell chocolates every day. But now they're going to be watched by the police. So Piper, Ben's, she must be a criminal because she knows how to move about the city unseen through the storm drains.
We know nothing about Piper.
We don't know anything about her. And so they hatch a harebrained scheme, basically, to do all this. And then we get some lore from the accountant named Abacus, who used to be Slugworth's accountant, right?
Bum, bum, bum.
And what Abacus knows is that the three rival chocolatiers are actually best friends, and they have combined their powers and multitudes of chocolate to basically form a cartel.
They've been watering down the chocolate that they give the
public
or the pores.
Oh my god, that gag is so funny.
There's a guy that if you say pores around him, he kind of throws up a little bit.
He does throw up in his mouth.
And so they've been watering down the chocolate that they give to the pores, and they keep a store, like a vat, under the fucking church.
Yes.
That is guarded by, so a vat of pure chocolate under the church that's guarded by
500 chocoholic monks and one crooked priest, played by Rowan Atkinson.
Plus the...
Oh yeah, plus the door woman.
Yeah, who has a specific name, who I don't remember. It's funny.
Her name is Gwenny, but she's the keeper of the keys.
Yeah, she basically is the one that guards the vault. And so in order, it's the whole fucking thing.
The movie takes a quick, sharp right turn into an Ocean's 11 movie briefly, while we outline in literal blueprint format exactly how you break into the underground vault where the chocolate cartel keeps their secrets, their books, and
the good chocolate.
The good chocolate.
Which in order to do that, the way to get into the magic chocolate vault, if you're not breaking and entering, is you bring a piece of chocolate to confessional, and you get in the confessional box and you pass the chocolate to the priest and the priest pulls a magic cross. This is a fucking real thing that I watched. The priest pulls a fucking cross, which lowers the confessional booth down into the underground vault of chocolatier madness.
Yes.
Then you have to get past the doorwoman who will know if you're supposed to be there or not based on her employers, and then you can have access to the magic chocolate vault.
Right. So that's all a thing that happens, and then we get our sequence of events that it's just Wonka doing Wonka stuff,
selling chocolate
in the streets, and
on like a black market fucking trade and disappearing into the sewer tunnels.
Yeah, he eludes the police. Honestly, we could do the entire movie in one episode, and I feel like we're hauling ass through stuff.
Yeah, we can pause here. I kind of want to take a note. It's just because it's such a fucking trip, and here's a good place to kind of stop this episode, but we can kind of chat about everything that's happened. I'm not hauling through the plot. You're hauling through the plot.
Yeah, I am hauling through the plot.
But this is too fucking nonsensical for a Wonka movie. And that's saying something.
That's saying a lot.
Because it's a Wonka movie. This is the same movie where children get like shoved in, or this is the same universe where children get shoved in fucking pipes and squeezed like blueberries and float to the ceiling after drinking fucking soda. Like, that's the universe we're like living in. And this is still more nonsensical than that. And I think that's a lot of what my problem is
it's just too ridiculous.
In every other Wonka movie, Wonka and his factory are the nonsensical, ridiculous parts.
Right,
but
everything else is like really dreary and bog standard.
In this movie,
everything is insane.
Everything. There's a fucking chocolate cartel. And it's just, that's, I think, my biggest issue is it's like, it feels like Wonka belongs in this world. When Wonka is exclusively supposed to be the outlier in a world. And that's kind of where I'm sitting right now. Eldritch being or not, Wonka is supposed to be the outlier in a world of normalcy. And this is the first rendition of Wonka where it doesn't feel that way. And if I want a Wonka origin story, I want to be explained about like how he learned how to do all the amazing things that Wonka does. This just feels like an in-between chapter shoved in between the origin story that I was supposed to get and the eventual Gene Wilder Wonka. I've made you change positions in your chair. Do you have thoughts you would like to share?
I think that's a bad take.
Okay.
Because I think you are watching a movie and you are predicating it on the existence of other movies of the same thing. There's a million movies about witches and wizards and shit. And if you look at them all like they have to be Harry Potter and the rules have to apply from Harry Potter, then you're going to think every other movie is shit.
I'm not...
No. You're looking at this Wonka movie like it's supposed to be the same as the other ones. And we have been in a world of cinema where we constantly are redoing the same shit over and over and over again, to the point where we on this show have bitched about redoing movies the same over and over and over again. This is a different look at a story that was written in a book fucking 100 years ago. To be fair, Roald Dahl specifically writes one kind of story, which is about sad children in dark, fucked up European worlds that crazy shit happens to.
Fair.
And if you look at the place they're in and the setting that they're in, I don't think you're giving enough credit to how boring and miserable the setting of the world is. But this variety of Wonka goes around, and everywhere he goes, he is a bigger, more boisterous, more flamboyant, more effective Wonka than any previous iteration. Because every time he's on screen, something insane is happening. When he's not on screen, you're treated to two things: a high society, snob, variety, bastard person, or the weak and poor and decrepit, which is the hallmark of what you're talking about. What happens in every Willy Wonka movie we've seen so far? There's a kid who's in this poor, decrepit state, and all around him is this highfalutin, high-to-do, well-to-do people. This movie checks every box that you just complained about it not checking. You're just looking at it in the wrong frame. This isn't a movie about finding someone to replace Willy Wonka at the chocolate factory, so you don't get to have your protagonist be that poor kid who's in the shit. The closest you get is the secondary protagonist, and that's Noodle, who is in the shit and has been. Her whole story is her life is fucking awful, and it has been the whole time. So she is your main character from other Wonka movies, right? That's the stand-in. But in this movie, Wonka is on screen most of the time, and he's just doing his fucking Wonka shit. Now, I'll grant you, they don't explain how he knows how to do any of that shit at all. This is a terrible origin story. It is not good in that regard at all. Terrible. No good. It delivers on like 3 things regarding his origin. But it does the same things that all the other Wonka movies have done. It elevates the people who are in the shit out of it at the behest of someone fighting and scrapping for it. It's the same thing in a different way.
Are you done?
Yeah, you're wrong.
Okay, I'm going to address a few points in that tirade. One, I'm not complaining because I didn't want them to remake it, but I did want them to do an origin story. And if we're going to do an origin story, we have to also contend with the lore that is already there. It is already established, which is at the end of, technically, your book ending Wonka's life. You're going from, if this movie was to be done properly, you're going from the beginning of Wonka to the end of Wonka when he is handing over the chocolate factory.
Okay, but why? Why do we need to contend with prior things that exist?
Okay.
We're not in a Wonka cinematic universe. There's 2 movies and a book.
This is why there's 2 books actually. Thank you very much. Because you have a sequel. Believe it or not, there's a sequel to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory called Willy Wonka and it's Charlie. It's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which is the glass elevator. But all of that, if you feel that way about this movie, then I have a question for you. How do you feel about the Joker movie? The Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie.
It's a fine film.
Okay, because when we watched that, we had a lot of the same issues with that movie that we have with this movie.
That movie was billed as a prequel. This movie, as I've Googled just now to see, because you're wrong, this movie is not billed as a prequel, but it is implied to be in the same canon. But it's not confirmed to be in the same canon. So it doesn't need to obey the rules you're trying to put it in.
Why can we not abide by the lore that is established?
Sure, they could. They didn't want to. They wanted to make a different movie. We can. Why do we need to?
So, this is not sold as a Wonka origin story, quote unquote, and or prequel, quote unquote.
Chalamet described his movie as a companion piece to Wilder's movie. Although Wonka isn't billed as a prequel, the movie heavily implies that it's part of the same canon as 1971. God, that's old. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. For instance, Pure Imagination features at the end of Wonka a song originally performed by Wilder in his film. Therefore, there is no need for a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie starring Chalamet, as the movie already essentially exists.
Exactly. So it's confirmed to be connected. This is supposed to be...
No, it's implied to be connected.
Implied as the same thing.
No, it's not.
They're connected.
If you want it to be, sure. If you feel... The thing about implying it and not stating it outright is if you feel it's true, then it is. And if you don't feel it's true, then it isn't. It's Schrodinger's plot. It both is and is not canon to your Gene Wilder Wonka lore. When I watch it, I have a hard time believing that this version of Wonka becomes that version of Wonka.
Oh, see, I have no...
It doesn't track to me at all.
I have no issue believing that Wonka becomes Gene Wilder's Wonka.
You think he just sits down and becomes this
insane person?
Maniacal, angry hermit?
Okay, that's a weird way to look at Gene Wilder's Wonka, but I will put it this way. Being locked up in a chocolate factory by yourself with only the Oompa Loompas probably does some things to your brain for after a while.
You're not wrong.
Like,
I read Gene Wilder's Wonka as an extremely cynical man.
I think he becomes that way. And I think that this Wonka could end up there. And because you want to know how I know, we see a tiny piece of it. We see a tiny piece of that Wonka come out in what will be episode 2 of this podcast. We see a tiny fragment of that Wonka become disillusioned with the world. I think it's highly possible that this Wonka turns into Gene Wilder's Wonka.
And if you believe it, then it's true. It's art. It doesn't need to abide by... Oh, suck it up. You're an art person. But you hate it. It doesn't need to abide by any rules whatsoever.
I'm also a theorist and a lorist, and if you're gonna fucking put something, companion or not, implied or not, if you're going to use a character, the character has fucking lore. You get it. Pick a fucking lane. You either go the full Joker route and it's not canonically related to anything of its same nature at all, or you pick the fucking route and you go down lore route. You don't tread this, it can be, it can't be, depends on how you interpret it, fucking middle line. Don't do that. Pick a fucking lane. If you want to do a whole new Wonka story that's just based off the character, and then this is a great movie. It's wonderful. It's beautiful and it's fine. If you want to go down that route. But you can't, because you also want to... Pick a lane. That's all I'm saying. Just pick a lane.
No one else is on the highway. I'm driving down the middle of all of them.
If you don't pick a lane, you want to know where you end up exactly where fucking J.K. Rowling is right now, where you keep making shit that doesn't make any sense with the rest of the shit that you fucking made.
Well, it's a good thing we didn't make 9 movies out of Willy Wonka. It's a good thing Roald Dahl didn't keep writing books. He's not even alive to see this one.
All done this episode.
All done?
All done.
You want to argue more about art?
Oh, don't worry. We have another episode. We can pick it right back up. I'm gonna kill you.
What?
Ugh.
I think you're being deeply unreasonable. You're choosing to die on the hill that this movie sucks based on other movies.
That's not what... I haven't felt this insane on this podcast in a minute.
Right now, you are every Star Wars fan who watched episode 1.
Okay.
When they were like, the Force is because of midichlorians. And everyone went, what the fuck are you saying right now? That's where you are right now.
And you know what? I love being in that boat because you're gonna fuck with shit. You're gonna fuck with shit. Minerva could not be the fucking Star Wars legacy It doesn't make any sense. You're just fucking with shit. Just to throw in some fucking throwaway whimsical stop. You have a story. You have a really good story. Just do that. We have to do a vote. Pick something torture James next time. How about that?
Supposed to be Wonka.
Okay. Alrighty. Here's y'all's vote. You can have the Mean Girls 2024. You can have I don't even know what some of these are. I know what this one is. I'll put one of mine on here. And actually, let's do this one. Because I'm feeling particularly vindictive. That's not how you spell that. How do you spell that? There you go. And then one of James's, which we'll do Anchorman. All right. There y'all go. Enjoy that. Did I cross off Willy Wonka? Can you look at that while you're there?
Mike was muted?
Yeah.
Damn it.
If you ever wonder about what we talk about when we're on breaks, most of the time we go out and continue our discussion about the movie in the kitchen.
In another place in the house.
While we refill on water or other beverages. Ugh. Oh, 50-50? Are we gonna have to... Oh.
Oh, no.
That...
Why would you end the...
Because it's time for the poll to end.
It still had like 2 minutes on it.
It doesn't. It doesn't have a timer.
Oh.
This one goes until
we were out
I
there
end it.
for 45 full seconds.
We were out there for more than that. This has been up for a minute. Not a minute, but it's been up for a few minutes.
0 votes for Anchorman. No one loves me in chat.
No one loves me either, because I just really want you to experience the new Mean Girls. And I feel like the only...
you want me to watch another shitty fucking musical?
The only way I feel like it's... that's why. That's why I don't want you to just watch it. Because I need other people to experience you experiencing the movie with me. Because...
we should just have a watch party with our friends.
Oh, the Mean Girls, it's another trash movie for me. I've watched it like 10 times. But I also liked the musical before the musical came out. Or the movie came out with the musical. Mainly because one of my favorite actresses on Broadway plays the original Janice. But I digress. Alright.
Janice.
Damn it. Different movie. Alright, so what we do when we have 50-50 is we do both of them. So you guys are set up for the next 2 episodes.
Oh, Willy's Wonderland and Labyrinth. Good lord.
What a choice. We're
gonna watch a slasher movie where Nick Cage has no dialogue and Labyrinth.
And a movie about a Goblin King kidnapping children. Played by David Bowie. Huzzah. What a slew of episodes that are coming y'all's way, because you have this one, which I did not expect to be like this, and then you have Willy's Wonderland and Labyrinth coming your way. Yep. You've made some choices as a collective unit. You all have made decisions that have led you to this place. So, of course, okay, this tracks. Labyrinth is a classic, so Green Gorilla picked it, and Bree, of course, picks the slasher film. This all makes sense. This all tracks. Alrighty. I don't even know where we are in the plot right now. Persistent thief. We'll start with the capturing of the Oompa Loompa. That's where we're gonna start, because that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, that is where we're at. Hang on 1 second. Give me a minute to read something here. I'm looking for ammunition to tell you you're wrong.
Oh, okay. Good to know. To answer your question, or not question, but to comment on what Bree put in the chat earlier, I fucking hate the Joker movie. It's on our list, for when the movie comes out to watch it, because James and I both hate that fucking shit. I legitimately have never been... That's not true. It is one of the most angering things I've ever seen in my entire life. As someone who... I really enjoy DC more than Marvel. Not a huge superhero fan, which we all know, but I love villains. I love all the DC villains, and I know a lot about all the DC villains. That Joker movie's a disgrace. On so many levels, for so many reasons. But it is what James is arguing this movie is, which is an entirely different story that has nothing to do with anything that has ever existed in Batman ever. Which, if that's the case, why didn't we just make a movie about a comedian that went insane and killed a bunch of people instead of attaching it to the name Joker? Why does it have to be attached?
To get people to buy tickets. Be more cynical.
And you can come at me and be like, it's based off the Killing Joke, blah, 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 blah. No. It's not based off shit. Fuck you. That's my thoughts about Joker. I didn't expect to be as angry as I am during this whole fucking thing. I'm gonna start my notes at Enter the Oompa, which is an actual note I put. No, I did not expect to be as angry as I am. It's a cute movie. It's fine. I wouldn't ever watch it again, but it's fine. What, James? Can you not find something to prove that I am wrong? Are you having issues proving that I am wrong?
No, because when I am declaring that you are wrong, it is based on a opinion rather than facts. You're trying to make an argument based on facts that aren't real.
Are you ready then?
Sure, fuck it.
Oh, you're in the trivia.
Yeah, I was looking for interview tidbits.
All right. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. We start this episode off with me doing deep breathing and James yawning.
I am uninterested in this argument.
James has declared that he is uninterested despite us arguing in my kitchen. Our kitchen.
Yeah, what the fuck? I paid for the kitchen too.
Like 10 minutes ago. I did not expect to be as angry. This is a cute movie. It's fine. I didn't expect to be as angry as I have been recording these episodes, but someone decided to pick
like
a fight.
Problem.
No,
it's a you problem. It is. It's your problem.
We're still talking about Wonka, unfortunately.
We haven't even gotten to the Oompa Loompa yet.
That's where we're gonna start, because we had to figure out a place to start, because the end of the episode went a bit awry.
Listen, everybody loves Hugh Grant. But Hugh Grant hates this movie.
Hugh Grant's on my side.
Hugh Grant's on your side, but not for any of the same reasons.
I will take it.
Hugh Grant didn't like making the movie because he had to do CGI work, and he didn't like anything that happened in the making of it with him. He didn't have any fun. Everyone else had fun, except him.
I'll take it. So.
How did Wonka trap the Oompa Loompa?
With a Rube Goldberg machine, really.
Pretty much.
It's been 3 weeks in movie time because the Oompa Loompa comes every 3 weeks. And he is there to collect a debt, we find out.
Yes.
Which he delivers us through the Oompa Loompa traditional song, because the Oompa Loompas
have a song.
Only know one song in this particular Wonka universe.
They only sing one song.
So we get a rendition of Oompa Loompa Doopity Doo, in which we get the backstory that Wonka
unknowingly stole
4 cocoa beans from an Oompa Loompa island where cocoa beans do not grow
in great quantity.
Something that is kept consistent with the lore is that Oompa Loompas are obsessed with cocoa beans. So, apparently, this is lore of this movie, but in established Oompa Loompa lore, if you steal from an Oompa Loompa, apparently, you have to pay them back tenfold.
Yeah, I thought it was 1,000-fold. Didn't he say 1,000-fold at the end when he does the thing at the end of the movie?
I thought it was 10.
10,000-fold?
Maybe it's 10,000
It
fold.
might be 10,000-fold. We could both be right.
Yeah, a lot.
You pay back way more.
You're indebted. It's like a fucking leprechaun. You are indebted for a very long time. So the Oompa Loompa has been just taking
Chocolate.
Wonka's chocolate as payment for some amount of time.
A couple of years, I think.
To pay off the debt every 3 weeks.
Yeah.
He'll just come and rob him of all his chocolate.
So he shows up again at the Scrub It bed and breakfast and laundry.
And we already kind of talked about this. Wonka traps him and then sings him a song.
Yeah, Wonka traps him. He sings him a song.
Yeah.
And then
Wonka is a nice guy.
Lets him out of the jar. Hands him a fucking...
The Oompa Loompa asks if he can have a frying pan so they can make a deal. Beats Wonka with the frying pan and steals the chocolate and runs away.
Hits him in the knee and the head with the frying pan.
And runs away with the chocolate.
They drew inspiration from Tangled. Maybe they're in the Tangled universe. Hold on, everybody. Frying pans used as weapons. Maybe they're in the Tangled universe. Maybe we should abide by the lore of horses that can understand English and have very expressive faces.
I'm going to walk off of this podcast. Speaking of expressive faces, though, this is a note that I had written down that we didn't get to touch on because James was like...
Just barreling through plot.
Barreling through plot. I didn't get to read any of my funny notes. The CGI giraffe Abigail is more expressive than the entirety of the CGI Lion King movie that we got. She is way better.
Yeah. Doesn't even have speaking lines, but still. Did you touch the thing?
I think I must have touched the thing.
Touch the thing. Now it's dark. Oh well.
So. Yeah, at the next day, Wonka tells them that he doesn't have any chocolate for them to sell that day because of the
Oompa Loompa stole it.
Yeah.
And they were like, that's fine. We weren't going to sell any today anyway.
And he's like, what? And they're like, look what we did. And they bought him the shop that he's been wanting because this is something we didn't touch on last time. If you have a place of business to sell your wares, the police cannot stop you from selling your wares. They can only stop you if you're selling your wares on the street.
Right. This is a rule that is established vaguely.
Yeah. So they bought a shop to sell their chocolate so that they can do it legally and the police can't stop them. So why they might not be able to stop him from selling his chocolate anymore doesn't mean they can't, like the police can't, doesn't mean that the cartel can't stop him from selling his chocolate anymore. And we get a scene basically where the cartel reveals some more information. That information is that Slugworth is somehow connected to Noodle. We don't know how.
It's unclear.
And that also now Mrs. Scrubbit is aware that her charges,
her enslaved workforce,
indentured servants.
That's That's it. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Indentured servants. That's what they are. Yep. Well done. You found the words.
Are sneaking out basically and not doing their job, even though the laundry's still getting done. So I don't think there was anything in that fine print of her contract that didn't say they couldn't
automate the services.
Automate the service. So yeah.
So now there's going to be a grand opening of the shop, as it were, and we get...
And some indeterminate amount of time passes because we go from having a dusty, empty, broken down shop
to a smaller but still operational version of the Tim Burton Willy Wonka chocolate factory.
Or the regular chocolate factory from the other Willy Wonka movie. But yeah, essentially they build a giant tree and they have a chocolate river.
And we do a whole musical number while we entice all of the citizenry to enter this shop and sample the wares.
Which are really good, and they've already been having Wonka's chocolate, so they're happy and they're making lots of money.
And then the third act disaster strikes. Well, one of them. The whole third act is kind of disaster after disaster.
Yeah. The first one starts with the fact that Wonka's chocolate has been somehow
tampered. Oh my god, we will not explain this at all.
Tampered with.
And it's even more confusing when it's revealed who tampered.
Yeah, because
I don't understand any of how that happened.
I also don't get, I don't get how, so spoiler alert, it's Scrubbit and Bleacher who tamper with the chocolate. I don't understand, A, how they got access, B, how they got access to those ingredients that they use to tamper with the chocolate, because they have bigger bottles than what Wonka uses.
It's potions and shit. The whole... To lend credence to your argument, if we're going to assume logical things about these characters, the first thing I would do if I were them to poison the chocolate is add like soaps and cleaning agents, because that's what's available. But if you do that, you kill the consumer base. So you can't do that because that's a kid's movie.
Instead, they use Yeti fur?
They use witchcraft ingredients, the same kinds that Willy acquired over the course of his tenure around the world, to manipulate the recipes. And
but not in a balanced way like Willy knows how to do.
Right. So Willy discovers this when the populace in his shop starts growing hair and turning colors and becoming otherwise
mutants.
Someone demands revenge and burns down his shop. But yeah, we don't understand how they poison the chocolate. And it would, like, it makes a little, like, there's all sorts of theories you can hatch about it. One theory that could be is that Slugworth is for sure the guy who told them to do it, and Slugworth's a chocolatier, so he could have provided ingredients, right? That could happen. However, and Slugworth wouldn't want to kill the populace either, because he needs them to buy his chocolate.
He needs the pores.
Right, he needs the pores to pay for his chocolate. So maybe he did it and gave them the ingredients, but if he had those ingredients, then his chocolate would be as good as Wonka's is. So there's no way that he's behind the ingredient acquisition. It doesn't make any sense. Listen, the movie's good, but there's a lot of stuff in it that's like, huh?
My other issue with this entire scene here is we got the building. Great. Fabulous. You're the law is off your ass. We've made a significant amount of money in the past 3 weeks. And we see that by that scene with the accountant where we see how many silver sovereigns that we have built up in this little montage of selling chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
Don't spend all your money renovating the fucking chocolate shit and buying yourself a new fancy scarf, Wonka.
Yeah, he didn't spend the money.
But don't do that. I mean, he didn't spend the money to buy that shop. I bet he was part of spending the money to create the opening.
Well, he automated the laundry with garbage he found in the room. He could have straight up built all that shit with stuff he found around the city.
We also will not explain where Wonka keeps getting all his ingredients.
Nope, it's unclear. We don't have time. We're on a tight schedule.
But the logical thing to do, if you were real people in a real world, buy the shop, pay off your fucking debt, and then go work on selling more chocolate and establishing yourself. Because if you do that, guess what? The rest of this fucking movie doesn't happen. Because then you lose access to the source to poison it. Now, they could do some of the other stuff that they do, but the big turning point here is that the supply gets poisoned.
Yeah.
And if
somehow.
If Slugworth loses scrub it, who has access to all the source because they're making it in like Wonka's apartment, then you don't have, you just pay off your fucking debt.
So, standing in the shambles of his burned down shop, Wonka is approached by the cartel, who offer him enough money to pay off everyone's debts to scrub it, the whole gang. Uh, they'll all get to go free as long as Wonka leaves town and never makes chocolate again.
And he is only willing to do this because he, in his, and we can at least keep this canon through multiple iterations of Wonka. Wonka is very childlike in his understanding of the world.
Yeah.
And people, more importantly, people in the world.
He's not cynical yet.
Even in the Gene Wilder one, though, he's
in
very.
The Gene Wilder one, he uses a contract with fine print to entrap the children.
I mean, every Wonka does that. But what I was going to say was, even in the Gene Wilder one, he's still not. He's very naive when it comes to the way that people function. Like, the way to communicate and interact with people is not something that Wonka, in any iteration, has ever had in his skill set. So, what he believed would happen in his naivety was that his mom told him, before she died, that when he shared his chocolate with the world, she would somehow, magically, mysteriously,
be there
with him.
And she's dead, so she can't.
And he sold his chocolate. He shared it with the world. Well, with this
small city.
And she did not show up. And so his whole, like, cornerstone of beliefs has crumbled. He doesn't have his chocolate shop. He does everyone turned against him other than his, like, little posse. And so he's just, that cornerstone of his belief system and what has been his driving motive this whole time is gone. Which is important to understand because that explains why he takes the deal. And it also gives credence to my argument from the last one of how you can see this Wonka eventually turn into a more cynical Gene Wilder Wonka. Okay. So, Wonka takes the deal.
He gets on a boat at midnight, shakes hands with Slugworth, gets on the boat.
Slugworth and the cartel suspiciously nod at the boatman, the captain.
And the boat takes off towards the North Pole.
And they provide... not yet. Never mind.
So...
yeah.
Wonka is sitting on a bench, feeling sorry for himself, and then the Oompa Loompa, whose name is Lofty, by the way. His name is Lofty.
Not technically.
Well, that's what he calls himself. And
True.
Then he says the other Oompa Loompas call him Shorty Pants.
True.
So we'll call him Lofty. He rolls up and admonishes Wonka for not standing up to the cartel, for being bullies.
And also tells Wonka he only owes him one more jar of chocolate.
Or half if they're the Hover Chalks.
Mm-hmm.
So then the Oompa Loompa's sitting there. We do a reoccurring comedy bit about the word huh. And then Wonka figures out that Noodle is somehow related to Slugworth.
He doesn't really know how.
But Slugworth shakes his hand, and he wears a ring on his hand that left an imprint, a strong imprint on Wonka's hand. And it's the same stylization as the ring that Noodle has. So he goes to the boatman, or he tries to go to the boatman to get him to turn around. They open the cabin door, and bingo, bango, bongo, attached to the wheel of the boat is a large stack of TNT.
The Oompa Loompa pieces out.
Wonka jumps in the water. The boat explodes. Cut to...
the cartel pay off the chief of police for finally...
something like a small shipping container's worth of chocolate.
which they've been paying off the chief police in increasingly large amounts of chocolate, and the chief of police has been sampling some of the chocolate he confiscates from citizens that is Wonka's. So the chief of police has been eating exorbitant amounts of chocolate for all of these sometimes. And then it's the next morning, and Scrubbit reveals to the collective that Wonka made a deal and freed them all. So she gives everybody their freedom except Noodle.
Who Slugworth paid her extra to keep Noodle entrapped for forever. Because Slugworth is the bad guy.
Breaking his deal with Wonka.
Right. Which actually means that Wonka can continue to make chocolate for the rest of the time.
That's the important
Very
part
good
of
thinking
that.
there.
Yeah.
Good thoughts. So they jam after Noodle reveals the ruse that Bleacher and fucking Scrubbit are not actually meant to be in love with each other, and that Bleacher's not actually a Bavarian lord. Scrubbit jams her back in the pigeon coop, which is a form of punishment. And then Wonka and the rest of the gang use witchcraft to all appear in the openings of the pigeon coop.
It's
And
not witchcraft. They have a ladder.
yeah, they have one ladder. How does everyone fill in every window on every side? There's things that don't make sense, America. This movie's made of bullshit.
Did we trade places out there?
No, he's an eldritch god. Everything is explainable if he's an eldritch god.
All right. So, yeah, they bust Noodle out and they come up. Here's where it really gets Ocean's 11-y.
Right. We begin our heist to get into the vault of the cartel to get their ledger, which will explain to a good cop the corruption that has been going on thus far. So they go to get the giraffe.
They drug the guard again.
Get the giraffe, take the giraffe, loose the giraffe.
They almost kill the giraffe very briefly.
That does happen. They almost kill the giraffe, but they don't kill the giraffe. Set loose the giraffe in the church.
Which has been the priest, the main guy who has been running the hidden vault, has been planted by Noodle with some of the Wonka mints that the giraffe is obsessed with.
Acacia mints?
There's something like that.
Something. So
the
the
giraffe
giraffe is hunting his ass down.
chases him around the entire church while there's supposed to be a funeral happening. So they have kind of closed out the funeral procession people.
While they deal with the giraffe situation.
Yes.
The rest of the team comes back to be like, oh, we're the giraffe people. They go in, everyone else is cleared out.
They rescue Abigail.
Wonka and Noodle go down.
Wonka and Noodle were in the giraffe carrier, so they break out, they put Abigail back in, and they leave. And
Wonka and Noodle go down into the vault, but they go on top of the elevator, having left a chocolate as a planted gift for the keeper of the keys down below.
which is the same chocolate, the night out chocolate.
Yep, it's a night out.
So they drug her too. This is really, you could say chocolate all you want. This is just a bunch of drugs.
It's just drugs. It's cocaine. So they drug her up. She passes out.
She goes through the whole thing, but it turns out that she, the person that the guard was in love with and so desperate and pining for during his night out, is the guard of the vault. And turns out that she is also pining after him after their days in chemistry class, ? And
It's a throwaway bit. It's just funny.
she calls him and they both pass out.
So they bust in. They're searching. They can't find the book. They can't find it. The cartel gets alerted by the priest that there was a bit of an issue with the church. So they suspect something's going on. They rush back. Wonka and Noodle finally find the book. They're parsing through it, finding a bunch of corruption. And the cartel arrives with a gun. And they force Wonka and Noodle into the chocolate vault.
Not before it's revealed
Oh
that
yeah.
Noodle is
Slugworth's
Slugworth's niece. And her dad died mysteriously.
And
Slugworth
he was a poor.
Slugworth, no, he wasn't a poor, because Slugworth was left to inherit the entire
Oh,
family
that's right. He
fortune.
fell in love
He
with a
fell in
poor.
love with a poor.
Sorry, that joke is so funny.
he inherited the entire family fortune. Noodle's mom brings a very sick Noodle to him one day and is like, "Help me." And he's like, "I'll help you." And so he takes the child, drops it down the laundry chute, which is how Scrubbit finds her, and he tells the mom that she died and pays her off. And so that's the story of Noodle.
Which, that's so insane. That is such an insane sequence of events.
And
he could have just been like, no, I'm not going to help you, you poor.
He ends up paying her anyways. Why didn't he just give her the money to go get medicine for the child?
Because Slugworth is the bad guy, and the bad guy never does anything sensible. So we know this. So we get that lore, and then Wonka and Noodle are forced into the chocolate vault,
where they intend to use all of their wasting their
combined pure chocolate is intended to drown these two in chocolate. And Wonka asks for a final, like a last wish almost, that they would deliver this jar of chocolates to the tiny orange man.
And they're like, okay.
So he gives them the jar, which is full of very clear hover chocks.
Yeah, because we saw what the hover chocks looked like, because it was the first chocolate Wonka ever pitched to the masses.
Right. So they agree, winky face, take the jar,
eat a lot of them.
Eat all of them.
Nope, because they give one to the priest, and there's one left in the jar when the Oompa Loompa throws it at the priest's head.
That's right. So they eat all but two of a jar full of hover chocks, and they fuck off. The poor pair are left in the vault. They are lifted up via the chocolate to the top, where they bang on the glass asking for help, and lo and behold, the cartel shows up above them, waves at them as they intend to leave them to drown. They leave, and
enter the Oompa Loompa.
The Oompa Loompa,
who was pissed
because he didn't get his jar of chocolate
that he knew Wonka left for him somehow.
Right. None of this will be explained. But he has the jar, approaches the priest, throws it at the priest, knocks the priest out, drops himself down the elevator, monologues to himself about how fucked the cartel are, because once you steal from an Oompa Loompa, you owe them back 10,000-fold. That is 10,000.
It is 10,000-fold? Okay.
I said it this time and it sounded right. So then he drains all their chocolate.
For himself, in some way or form.
I think it's more like just, you stole all my chocolate, so fuck you. You get to lose yours. Oh, I hate that. I hate that.
Alexa randomly spoke in our house, even though no one was in the room.
I hate that.
It's still talking, and now James is going to go unplug her as punishment for a week. That's typically what happens when Alexa randomly talks in our house.
Only ever at night.
Alexa chaos aside.
God damn that tiny robot. It's my tiny orange man is Alexa.
Do you owe Jeffrey Bezos a debt?
If I did, I wouldn't be paid back by having Alexa go off in the nighttime. Anyways, the chocolate is being drained away.
Which saves Wonka and Noodle.
Who come out and mysteriously are no longer... No, they're
chocolatey, and then they're not chocolatey, and there's no transition there.
No transition. They come out, they
reveal the ledger
to the crowd.
And the good cop.
The good cop named Affable. His name is Affable. And the cop reads through it and he goes, "Oh shit! Look at all these illegal payments." And
including the chief of
the
police.
chief of police is like, "I'll take that off your hand, save the paperwork." He was like, "No, no, 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 no. See, your name's in here a ton of times, so all of you are under arrest." The cartel try to run, but they've eaten a bunch of hover chalks, so they begin to fly, uncontrolled, outside, with no glass overhead, and the fountain in the town square erupts with chocolate and sparkles because it's Wonka chocolate now. And the whole crew of the cartel basically fly off. And Wonka makes a comment, which is a comment that America would believe alludes directly to him becoming this cynical, devilish old man. And I'm inclined to agree. But at the same time, it's the exact sort of comment that an eldritch horror would make.
All I heard was I was right.
No, 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 no. I said you were right about that quote. Very specifically.
What's the quote, James?
They'll probably come down. Eventually. Maybe. So he killed those guys.
Yeah.
He killed the cartel.
This is the first of what will be the serial killer murders of Wonka.
Now, let's also take into consideration that if he kills Slugworth, there can't be a Slugworth in the 1971 film. So
no, wait, it's my turn. It's my turn to go on.
For fuck's sake.
It's my turn to go on the crazy theory train.
Okay.
Because guess what? There's another heir to the Slugworth fortune, and her name is Noodle. So eventually, Noodle will turn against Wonka and be a rival in the chocolate industry.
So this is an origin story of Slugworth. So they should have called the movie Slugworth and paint Wonka as the villain. This kind soul who kills her uncle. And then that's her reason for needing his recipes in 1971.
I'm not saying that's the reason that she becomes like I think I don't know all the in-between steps there. I haven't gotten that far, but I do know that there is, if that Slugworth is gone and out of the picture, there is still one heir to the Slugworth name and fortune, and it is Noodle. And Noodle will become the owner of the Slugworth Chocolate Company and rival Willy Wonka.
You're reaching. The things you said are reaching in the same way that saying Willy Wonka is an eldritch god are. That's, wow. I mean, it's a theory. It's almost a film theory.
A film theory.
We could pitch it to those people, but what?
No, I'm telling you. I feel really good about this one.
All right, well, here's what we're going to do. While you talk about the rest of what happens with reuniting Noodle with her mother and reuniting with Lofty and purchasing the
Are you just going to do it all
castle, I'm going to look up something about Slugworth.
Okay. James kind of told you all about it. So, Wonka, and some amount of time passes, an indeterminate amount of time, because now Wonka is clean entirely, as is Noodle from their chocolate bath. And Wonka everyone's enjoying his chocolate from the chocolate fountain. Everyone's having a good time. They're making money. Like his little posse's collecting money, and everybody's enjoying themselves. But Wonka's sad. And Wonka is sad because it still didn't come true. He's sharing his chocolate, and his mom is not with him. Now, Wonka, the entire movie, has had this last bar that his mom made him for his birthday of chocolate. And so he finally opens it. And his mother always told him there was a secret ingredient to her chocolate. But she wouldn't tell him what it was until he was older. Well, he opens it up, and the secret ingredient is not love. Close. Not love, but close. It's who you share the chocolate with. Blech. The stupid. I would have almost rather it said love, because that is the stupidest fucking shit. But yeah, it's the secret to the best chocolate is who you share the chocolate with. So he decides to break up the last bar that his mom ever made him, which there is just enough pieces for him and every single person in his little posse to have one of the chunks of chocolate. And they all have it, and they all say it's like the best chocolate ever. And Noodle asks him if it feels the same. And he says, yes, I just wish this could last forever. He hallucinates briefly or sees the ghost of his dead mom, whatever you want to put in there. And they have a sweet little moment. And then they tell Noodle that, if you remember, one of Wonka's posses was a phone operator. And she spent the entire day making phone calls to the 106 Dorothy Smiths or D. Smiths to find her mother. And they found her mother, and she works in the library where she lives. So Wonka sings a rendition of Pure Imagination and takes Noodle to find her mother. And then the movie wraps with another rendition of the same song, where Wonka pitches the idea to the Oompa Loompa that's been following him around, Lofty,
to be the head of his tasting department,
and says, hey, instead of going back to that island where all the other Oompa Loompas hate you, why don't you come work for me instead? And
now this sets him up to not have an Oompa Loompa workforce.
That's another thing where I'm like, so where do the rest of the Oompa Loompas come from eventually? But we don't get that explanation because this isn't a really good Wonka origin story.
Let's also bear in mind that maybe we don't want to lean into the fact that our protagonist we all know and love exploits the labor of another race.
He pays them in chocolate.
Right, that's not monetary compensation.
It is in their world. They worship the cocoa bean. Listen, okay.
I can't cash Bibles at the bank.
Roald Dahl, originally.
Very racist.
This was a much more racist story, and there were definitely implications that the Oompa Loompas were slaves.
So we've really sort of like arced away from that in this movie as hard as humanly possible.
But we gotta acknowledge our source material. Yeah, we will not get any information about how Wonka acquires the rest of the Oompa Loompas. Eventually, we just know he does. He buys a castle, they make a factory through a montage in about no time flat or an indeterminate amount of time, because time is not real in this movie.
Slugworth is also always Arthur Slugworth. And no one else.
I'll come back to that. We wrap this movie with an Oompa Loompa epilogue.
Talking about the gang.
Where he sings an Oompa Loompa song and tells you what happens to all the main characters that you care about.
And also Bleacher and Scrubbit.
And how they ended up. And that is Wonka. Now to answer your thoughts, it's clearly Noodle's son. Noodle eventually has a son that takes over the business, and he doesn't like Wonka. So he ends up being the Slugworth from the other Willy Wonka movie.
The Slugworth in the other Willy Wonka movie is white.
She adopts. Blind casting, color, the race and color don't matter anymore in Hollywood. No, she adopts a son because she feels for the orphans because she got that orphan syndrome. She's got the orphan syndrome. So she adopts an orphan, gives him a new name and a new identity, and welcomes him into the Slugworth family, and he goes after...
Some stuff I've read says it's not a direct sequel, or a direct prequel, rather. Some stuff I've read says it's a loose prequel. There's nothing I've read that marks it as a direct prequel. They say the closest thing it could be is a prequel to the 1971 film.
Which is what I'm saying it is.
Right.
Which is different
it is, but
than the book, and different than the Johnny Depp movie. The book and the Johnny Depp movie are almost in the same universe, right, and then you have the Gene Wilder universe.
Right, so when the people who made this movie say, well, it's kind of like a prequel to that, that should not under any circumstances at all, make it a direct prequel to the Gene Wilder movie. It's an ode to a character. It doesn't need to be judged on the sins of its predecessors. I think it's unfair to hold it underneath the Gene Wilder movie.
Then why'd they make him so much like Gene Wilder?
Probably because Timothée Chalamet really likes the Gene Wilder movie, as he has said multiple times.
They gave him the same outfit. They made him say similar lines and sing similar songs. But to cover our asses so the lorists don't come after us in the comments, it's a loose prequel. If it's even a prequel at all. That's what they did.
Yeah.
Just bullshit. Pick a fucking lane.
They did. They picked the lane of, we want to make a cool Wonka story.
Then just make a cool Wonka story.
They did, and you were jamming it into places it doesn't go.
Then make a cool Wonka story and don't make him look or act anything like the original Wonka.
Well, then it's not a Wonka story, is it?
You can.
You can. They did. It exists. It's Wonka 2023. This is the way it is, man. The movie exists in a box you don't want it to exist in, and you're mad about it. You're big mad about it.
I'm going to set the box on fire.
That won't change that the court of public opinion says it's great. 7 out of 10 on IMDb? Woo-wee! That's pretty good. There have been Oscar winners that have done worse. Doing all right? To our listening audience, America's head is in her hand. Just so deeply annoyed at everything that I've said. So frustrated that art doesn't fit in the box she wants it to.
They didn't put it in the box they wanted.
I feel like they definitely did.
No,
or it wouldn't have
they
been
took
released.
their feet and stood in 2 different boxes.
Well, did you know you can do that? You just have to get 2 boxes. So rigid. Gotta be more loosey-goosey, go with the flow, like Willy Wonka. Aw, how sweet. She's flipping me off. All right, I think it's time for us to be done. It's time for us to wrap. It's time for you to go have your stompy little cry in a corner. It's okay. We all still love you, and we'll have to suffer through Willy's Wonderland and also Labyrinth next. A C movie and everyone from the 90s nightmare fuel. When did it come out? It was remarkably helpful information. Thank you. Good night.
I'm not giving you shit at the end of that. Fuck you.
I think you're being unreasonable. Been a big whiny baby.
I'm not being anything. You're being things. Save project. Save project.
What am I being?
You're being rude.
Rude? How am I being rude?
And
Rude? How am I being rude? Tell me
And-
directly how I'm being rude. Tell me right now. You don't have any. You're just mad. You're so big mad. And you haven't even explained how I'm being rude yet.
and unreasonable. You're being rude.
Unreasonable?
Unreasonable.
I'm the most reasonable person on this podcast. About lots of things. Listen, my fucking theory about the movie was that Willy Wonka's an eldritch god, okay?
I didn't realize that Keegan-Michael Key was the cop.
I said it when he came on screen.
I didn't hear you. I was eating gyros.
Well, that's fair. Those were good gyros.
Oh,
heavens.
Yeah.
Just wait till Labyrinth when I shit on that movie as hard as I can.
That's fine.
And Willy's Wonderland. If Willy's Wonderland is good, I'm going to be so mad.
It's the FNAF movie that people wanted to make, but Scott said no.
Yeah.
That's basically what Willy's Wonderland is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is how I'll be discussing. That's a preview of how America's going to review Willy's Wonderland. Because that's essentially what actually happened is they were like, oh shit, they're making a FNAF movie. What if we made one first? And that is how that went down. And it's yeah. No, I got nothing.
Who's got the film degree?
What does that have to do with the price of tea in China?
It doesn't have anything to do with the price of tea in China.
I'm going to walk out into traffic.
Wonka's quite good.
I'm going to walk into traffic.
It's 10 p.m. at night. There is no traffic.
If I go out on 290, there's traffic.
There's some, probably.
There's always traffic.
You're going to walk the entire mile out to the highway?
Is a mile?
Yeah.
Is a mile from our house to the highway?
Yeah.
I have no reference of distance. We know that.
That's fair. Oh, God. Good movie.